going up against Big Gabe, like he's the guy to fear in Europe right now, along with souL and Reina.
I mean, he probably has more ESL Pro Tour points than anybody else because he just keeps winning those Open Cups, or at least making the finals. In the top left of Nightshade, our red Terran is HeRoMaRinE.
And spawning in the bottom right, playing for Team Makers, it is souL. I think one thing that's like cool to mention as well, like souL representing Poland here in Katowice.
Yeah.
And you know, this is a tournament where he has shone before. He did take out stats in one of the brackets. But then, again, it's always which souL is going to turn up because he can be so amazing.
Yeah.
Like, he's actually been a practice partner of seryl's for a long time, and serйл likes him because he's very good. He's a very standardly good Terran, but the fact that he's come into this tournament kind of saving builds, I haven't seen that kind of souL before because he has always been this very standard, does the standard is Terran, but if he could bring something a little bit special to the tables in certain matchups, I'm going to be looking very forward to seeing him play.
Yeah, he was super well prepared for Denver, and I would not be surprised at all if he was confident enough to go into HeRoMaRinE to have builds prepared here as well. So there's a lot on the table as we get this started up, this TVT, and instantly double gas apiece, so we're not going to be seeing super early expansions. Probably still expect them to kind of expand after the factory, though.
I kind of like the fact that they're both doing this. Because
yeah.
This shows, like, you respect your opponent, right? Like, it's a safe build. So there's the expansion build. The proxy Raxes have kind of gone a bit out of fashion recently just because everybody kind of knows how to defend it. But this one, it's a very safe build. So they're both going to tech up. They get the factories at the same time. If we look at both the gases of both these players as well, I do think they took an SCV off each refinery, which just shows that they want to get up that CC as fast as possible. So, yeah, they're both playing it safe.
The HeRoMaRinE Scout's a little bit interesting though, because usually you don't SCV Scout when you go double gas. It's more of a one gas opener, so he really is making sure of everything that souL is doing. He does not want souL to pick up a cheeky little advantage early in the game.
One thing that this could signify to souL as well is that he is going for an expansion.
Yep.
Or he's playing the 2 barrack style in the base that Time was playing quite a bit. That's much better with the SCV Scout. So right now, souL, obviously in the dark, going to be a little bit careful about what goes on. But right now, he's definitely in the dark. And that little scout by HeRoMaRinE, even though it isn't the most efficient with the build he's done, little mind games can go on. You can confuse your opponent.
Definitely makes souL second guess himself a little bit, and you can already see souL just making sure with that first Reaper, he's scouting around, he's trying to see what's going on. He's just checking there's nothing out on the map. He goes all the way to that bottom left corner too, as the expansions will of course start to come down. And we're starting to already phase out of the initial Reaper Hellion opening. 2 Reapers and a Hellion each, it seems, going into a tech lab, a reactor, all the structures which are going to really give us an idea of what these players want to do next. And we have seen some twists and turns in TVT lately. I would say most notably is Cyclone openers, where we've seen even Macfield Accelerator being researched into either some mech or even just 4 Cyclones into a bio transition.
It's amazing how TVT has evolved.
Yeah.
You know, ever since the interference matrix change/nerf, like, so many more builds have become viable. I say that, though, and these guys are mirroring each other down to a T. Third gas does start by souL pretty darn early, but you see it by HeRoMaRinE as well. So, yeah, these guys, they are exactly the same right now. The only difference was the SCV Scout from HeRoMaRinE.
Yeah, that third gas really means we're very likely to see a Raven early on, of course, and maybe even multiple Ravens, but even that Raven usage has changed lately, where instead of just saving the energy for an interference matrix, they've been dropping auto turrets and mineral lines. We see sometimes 3 Ravens at a time just coming in mass turret in area. And even just using mass turrets to break initial pushes, etc., it can be so powerful. So that's something we'll look towards here as we see the first Raven starting up from souL. And HeRoMaRinE does have that early siege tank about to finish up, so he might get on the map a bit aggressively.
It is definitely the first little alteration, I guess, the order in which they're getting their units. Getting out an earlier Raven, that's good because you get more energy on it, can pile out more turrets and more spells, but getting the tank means you're a little bit safer. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of paths they both take, because I personally know both these guys in TVT to be exceptionally greedy. souL on the crazy end of greed in that he'll get his third base so darn early, but Big Gabe also can be that kind of guy. So I'm looking forward to see where they go. Do they go 1 Raven, 2 Raven, 3? Me personally, I've been kind of stopping at 1 and just seeing where it goes from there, but like mech's a possibility as well. They're both getting a lot of Marines though.
Yeah, and siege tank production really seems to be a bit of a priority now as well, and as HeRoMaRinE comes across here to check what's up, It's unlikely he does much, but he gets the scout in the main base with the Reapers, so they go up, and even 2 Reapers, they can get an SCV kill or 2, but the Cyclone is there. I mean, that's preparation for something like this, maybe a Banshee showing up. Cyclone, well positioned from souL, only loses 1 SCV. HeRoMaRinE doesn't even gain that much of a scout from that either.
No, we do see that very early third from souL here. And I mean, it was just after the Reaper scout. Ooh, did souL actually get to scout this CC? I wonder.
Yeah, it's one of those very close ones, as we do have HeRoMaRinE here. souL here, just going to swap to that reactor. So he's going to start building up some Vikings early in this game. So he's really going to bid for air control. And that's also kind of interesting because it's not necessarily something you've seen all the time lately. I feel like a lot of people, you know, take it back a few months and TVT is like, oh yeah, 2-3 Ravens, Vikings, air control, don't build medevacs. But now, you know, maybe a couple Vikings here or there, but a lot more people are just happy to play without that air control and just to try and make it work. Like, for example, you can see HeRoMaRinE took a later third Raven, right? So he's still building the Raven, but with the racks already coming through, I'd be surprised if the starport took over a reactor now.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Is it actually the third Raven that he's making?
I think so. I think he's got 2 out, and the third is about to pop.
Okay. Double engineering base starts are both roughly at the same time as well, so there's not going to be any significant upgrade lead. Scan goes down just to confirm exactly what he's up against, and it's like, okay, he's getting the reactor out too. 2 Liberators start for souL.
So more kind of harassy rather than like looking to kind of go straight up for a push and sort of take air control. Because HeRoMaRinE is going to have 2 Vikings too, and if you get aggressive just off 2 Vikings as souL, you're going to walk into equal numbers. HeRoMaRinE pushes across, like maybe poke around at the front. We'll see where the Ravens want to go themselves, because remember, those auto turrets harassing can do so well nowadays as well.
This is quite scary, because HeRoMaRiNE's going to have a good read on where souL is on the map, given that he's just taken this third and he sees his army move down with that Hellion. So is Big Gabe just going to pounce here immediately? He does have an extra Raven.
Yeah, he's going to start coming on in, and well, souL starts to drop his own auto turrets, but he's being outnumbered here. Even a Matrix on one of the siege tanks on either side, and well, it's kind of close, but in the end, HeRoMaRinE just has the extra tanks remaining, and that makes a huge difference, and HeRoMaRinE pouncing was the right word. However, now those Liberators are actually great defensively because there's not any anti-air left in HeRoMaRinE, so the Liberators will somewhat be the defense.
That was an unusual choice with the Liberators, but it's kind of paying off a little bit here. If that one Liberator dies, though, those 3 tanks can remain, and yes, it does. Now Big Gabe is the one with air control. The Vikings, the Liberators going down. Even the third, it's so low in health here.
Yeah, it is dropping, and it's going to be difficult to repair that. You've got to fly it all the way up into the main. The problem for souL is HeRoMaRinE now has this position. He's killed 14 SCVs, 15. He's taken his own third base, and HeRoMaRinE, by taking the initiative, has put himself into a huge lead now in this TVT.
I think what's really cool about Big Gabe's play, he knew exactly what he was doing. He got that earlier tank right from the get-go. He now takes his third, now that he knows he's safe and piling on the pressure. 16 SCVs down. He's still got all his tanks alive. This tank misfires as well, doesn't get the end kill. 4 tanks sieged up. The Vikings land. The Marines are trying to stim forward and do what they can, but there is just too much Gabe here. And souL is getting destroyed outside his natural.
Yeah, he really is. One more tank by even the Viking lands just to try and help out, and maybe this tank survives, but you're not mining a third base. It's all the way in your natural. That even takes an eternity just to fly back over to the left-hand side. HeRoMaRiNE's got upgrades already. He's ready to keep on going, rallying across. He still has the siege tanks to the left-hand side as well, so he still owns that position. And maybe he backs away now, but it's not going to be for long before he comes back across and stops souL retaking that third base for a long time.
I liked that scouting orbital command, by the way. It's like, no, I'm not going to use this guy for scans. I'm going to use him to scout. And yeah, you got to see that army retreating, but 2-2 has started for Big Gabe. He's now starting his combat shields as well. Like, tanks actually one-shot Marines if they don't have combat shields, if they stim. So it is a timing that souL can use to just stay alive for a little bit longer. But HeRoMaRiNE is in a domineering position, 70 SCVs against 49. He's fearless, and you know, if you're in souL's position and you see that sensor tower go up at the third, you know you're behind now for sure.
Yeah, and what do? Do you start dropping because it's going to be so difficult to get in any position, really? You have to do something, right? Because you're sitting down 20 workers, you're not really in a good position just to sit back and defend, because HeRoMaRiNE's not going to be that player who just like, oh yeah, you're defending? No, I'll just headbutt you and lose too much. So, realistically, souL's in a little bit of trouble, and right now his army supply is good, but obviously HeRoMaRiNE's eventually going to get those upgrades, and I think that's why HeRoMaRiNE just is sitting back. He's waiting for the worker count to come into play a bit more, to take more of an advantage, Just little drops like this, and instantly, I mean, SCV's going down, Mule's going down, and maybe even the third CC. Well, Eunice will come across to save it. HeRoMaRinE just dives for it, he gets the third base, and that means souL now has to go across the map to try and force anything to happen because he is going to be in so much trouble.
And Gabe knows that, so all Gabe has to do now is make sure that he doesn't die, and he's going to be so far ahead. Even making his 4th base as this goes on, like, this is going to be kind of clutch for him, but the thing is, his army supply is still pretty darn good. Yes, he's 10 supply behind, but a defensive Terran with tanks, trying to engage into that, it's so darn difficult.
Yeah, and he forces this siege up, and anytime he forces siege, it's those few extra seconds you buy as well.
And 2-2 Wardy, it's soon finishing for Gabe, so he's going to be in much better shape. These Liberators, though, these could make things a little more tricky for the German Terran.
Yeah, has to pull a few Marines to the side. The problem is souL isn't ready to straight up push up the ramp or anything at the same time, so he gets 10 SCVs. That'd be great if he wasn't 30 behind before he did that damage, so it's really, really tough. souL has a 3rd base because its main orbital relocated, and meanwhile, HeRoMaRiNE's float now his 4th command center. So HeRoMaRiNE's still looking great, upgrades amazing, just has to keep on defending, and souL looks for a way to do something. We'll try a big drop.
I can't believe that Gabe feels safe enough to take a 4th right now when he knows he's basically against a 2-base Terran. And souL, he's going right for the natural here, and I think Gabe tried to spread out way too quickly because he's going to have to kind of concede this 2nd base.
Yep, has to stop mining it. I mean, his engineering bays aren't upgraded, and we'll give those up as well. And it's just when there's that many tanks siege up, it's always going to be expensive to fight into. Here we go, though. Remember, those Marines of HeRoMaRiNE have 2-2. So they do trade that a little bit better. At the same time, the fight on the right-hand side, HeRoMaRiNE crushes that. His tank's still defensive, and that's enough to get the GG. HeRoMaRiNE will take the first map of the best of 3.
That was very smooth by Big Gabe. Like, his build just seemed good. It seemed like he knew exactly what he wanted to do. souL tried to be a little bit too greedy with taking that 3rd, right? And Gabe, he left his Hellion there. He knew exactly what army was coming down. And with the extra Raven, he just pounced. He got all his turrets down before souL could actually land one. And it's actually quite tricky to land those turrets, because if there's anything in the way, boom, you can't land it. It's not like infested Terrans, or how they used to be, where it was like you could just pop them out anywhere. No, you need like a space, an area of ground without anything occupying it. And from that point on, Gabe just didn't really make any mistakes. One thing we could say, maybe trying to take that 4th and spreading his army out, like it wasn't super necessary, but that was Gabe just asserting his dominance in this game.
He's just so big, he needs a 4th base to fit everything in there, man. It was just one of those things where, I guess at the end of the day, even if you lose that 4th base, it's like, well, whatever. The biggest risk is that you lose the 4th and the natural to the double drop, but souL didn't even go for the 4th. In the end, he ran up that ramp to try and, multi-prong it, and HeRoMaRiNE, a couple defensive tanks still there, good amount of Marines. I think what was great from HeRoMaRiNE is he didn't really commit that much to defending in the natural, right? Couple tanks, a decent amount of Marines, knew he had the upgrade advantage to win that out, and it was the perfect amount to clean that up while leaving the rest of it over to the side.
I think one thing we have to commend souL on there was the fact that the game went kind of terribly for him. So as soon as he lost his 3rd, he lifted up his main and floated that over. If he goes just for the 4th of Big Gabe, it's like, okay, I'm still in a 2-base versus 3-base. So we had to go for kind of a killing blow.
He has to all in.
Yeah, and the thing is, often we don't realize, like, it's the good player putting the other good player in a terrible position where all the choices that he makes looks like wrong choices. But souL, going for that natural, it was his one...
Yeah, it's the only thing he can do. He's completely all in. He's 1-1 against 2-2. He's done 2 orbitals against 3.
Out of the list of bad options, that was the least bad one. And he went for it. It didn't work out. And Gabe, he took a pretty convincing first game of the series. And, souL, I feel, is a momentum-based player. If it's going well, and he doesn't feel nervous, he doesn't doubt himself, then that's great. But as soon as, like, one wound, one kink in the armor, chink in the armor even, it's a bit worrisome for him. So I just hope that souL keeps it together. And getting on to the 2nd map, spawning in the bottom left, playing for Team Mousesports, it is HeRoMaRinE.
And of course, needing to win this game to stay in the upper bracket, our blue Terran player, souL.
I am kind of interested to see if their early builds mirror each other exactly.
Yeah.
Because that last game was pretty crazy how close they were. Like, obviously, there were slight deviations. Like, I'm going to get a tank first, I'm going to get a Raven first. But the fact that they both went for, like, double gases and there was exactly the same between them, quite unusual in TVT, unless TVT is getting so figured out with the new maps as to what is actually the best opening, whether you have to really fear proxy 2-axes at all.
Well, this is a map where we're probably going to see them maybe... Okay, we actually see a second gas from souL. I feel like this is a little bit off already because this is the one gas expand map, which is what HeRoMaRinE is doing. It's large, there's a big distance between the bases, it's not a fast rush at all. And so you can one gas expand here pretty comfortably as long as... Well, typically you SCV scout, but HeRoMaRinE is even pulling out all the stops. He's not even SCV scouting, so this is as greedy as it gets for TVT, while souL is still playing that double gas, so we'll see if he can somehow take advantage of that.
I have to mention as well, like, these players must play each other a lot on the European ladder. Like, Gabe plays a lot there, souL plays a lot there, and a lot of players tend to have styles that they stick to. So if Gabe knows that souL plays this 2-gas style, like he scouted in the first game, right, and he saw it, that might have been, like, just for him to confirm, are you playing like you do online? Oh, okay, like, I feel good about this. Then going into the second game, taking a little bit of a risk like this and not scouting with an SCV while doing an expansion, this could be an instant loss against the Proxy 2 ranks, which I think I've seen souL do in the past.
Yeah,
so the fact that he's so confident about doing this...
Especially after souL's lost a map, it's almost like the perfect time where souL's like, you know what, I am going to Proxy Rax.
Yeah.
Like, he does this a lot against Zerg especially, where it's like, you know what, fine, you beat me, I'll take a Proxy Rax game off you. So, as we set up, what's going to happen here is, obviously, HeRoMaRinE gets into that reactor, super greedy. Like, even the reactor straight after the Reaper, right, doesn't go second Reaper or anything along these lines. Is just setting up to probably go straight into some reacted Hellions to safeten up this opening. And meanwhile, souL has pulled out a little bit of gas, so he will start to expand on the natural expansion. So he's not, like, super far behind, but obviously it is advantage HeRoMaRinE.
Do you know what's really cool about this game, too? So, Big Gabe scouts the first game with the double gas, kind of insinuating that he's not playing double gas. This game he doesn't scout at all and shows that he's probably going double gas. But the thing is, and this is why souL's kind of playing safe at home.
Because he expects double gas.
Yeah, so like Big Gabe is actually playing a lot of mind games with souL, just with the openings, just with a single thing like an SCV. Like, StarCraft 2 is complex. It's very simple if you know how to master it and how to convince your opponent that one thing's happening. But the fact that souL's sitting at home against this, he's just going to be behind in a lot of ways.
Hey, I'm actually even surprised HeRoMaRinE is building a couple of Marines. I think he completely believes his fake out is working. He doesn't need the Hellions because souL isn't coming across the map. So souL goes into a Cyclone similar to what we saw last time. I mean, it's very similar from souL. As now the HeRoMaRinE Reaper shows up, and this is just annoying, right? Is he even going to get the SCV? He does. Poor souL feels like he just can't catch a break for a moment in this series.
And seeing the exact same build come out of souL, you know, the late Starport, getting the Cyclone most likely first, it's most likely not a tank in HeRoMaRinE's eyes, given that Cyclone's much safer. And the fact that everything else in his build represents safety, HeRoMaRinE's in great shape, even getting the SCV as you called.
Yeah, I mean, now you've got the Ravens coming up so much faster as well, and souL wants to build Ravens, that third gas coming up. HeRoMaRinE can skip the third gas a little bit, right, because the way his build works out, he actually is able to get that Raven early. He skips the factory production for just that little while. So, slight differences, obviously, across the board, but HeRoMaRinE looking good. And I really like where he's at. Siege tank coming up, and we'll see how aggressive he ends up wanting to be. He is going to start up the third CC. Again, he can do that faster. He's had better mineral income all game. So, just little things going faster. And the problem is, if souL doesn't take a third CC soon, he's behind, and he gets a scout now. At least he can start doing something with that and maybe responding. It's
a really good scout, getting to see that third when it goes up, and getting to see the tank come out as well. I also like the fact that Gabe got that scout off with the Reaper, and then he doesn't go for the Cyclone, given that the Starport's so late, because what do you need it for?
No need.
No, just goes straight into tank production, and then he's feeling very solid with that. Just goes the pure armor that you want, which is just Marines and tanks, and skipping that Cyclone. It's another little advantage for the German.
Yeah, and what do you do now? I mean, we actually see HeRoMaRinE, he went one Raven, it doesn't look like he's started up another just yet. Again, he doesn't have the gases on the natural, so you can't afford 2, 3 Ravens, otherwise you just can't build tanks, and tanks are very important. You need that tank count, as this Marine is even going to see the Raven making its way to the main. Oh, souL, what more could go wrong for you right now? Off of nothing really happening, you know? It's crazy. This is going to get in. I mean, HeRoMaRinE maybe didn't quite spot it because he's pretty late to react, right? Nothing moving into the main base or anything.
I felt that this was like overly safe by souL as well. The fact that he scanned the base after kind of knowing what was going on. Obviously, he doesn't want the Raven to run in and die. But I feel that scans also give away what you're doing. But the fact that Gabe didn't see that with a Marine, even though he saw it, interesting, to say the least. Oh, is that only +1 armor starting for Gabe, or did he already finish +1?
That's just +1 armor, so that's obvious. I mean, +1 armor is a mistake, right?
Wait, where's his engineering bay? Has he got
it starts +1 attack, so he definitely had double. I mean, even if you have one engineering bay, the attack upgrade is the priority in
Absolutely.
TVT, so in any matchup, actually, for Marines. So as another Raven comes in, this is souL making use of having double Raven. I'm a little afraid of what happens around the 1-1 timing, because obviously HeRoMaRinE has that faster stim, which means he'll have faster combat shields to line up with 1-1, and he has faster 1-1, albeit the +1 attack a bit later. So at that stage, it maybe becomes scary for souL. The benefit for him, Eternal Empire is a bit of a safer map to defend on, at least.
One of the problems I have for souL here is, yeah, HeRoMaRiNE's just getting more ahead as time goes by, and in TVT, you have the idea of leapfrog, right? So if you go for the double gas build and your opponent goes to the expo, you want to take an earlier third to get ahead of them in that way. But the fact that he's taken his later, he's just totally off what he needs to be doing. The supply is a bit deceiving. The fact that Big Gabe is going to have all these timings available, such as the upgrades, the armory started, he can start his second factory very soon as well. 4th and 5th barracks will start earlier. Just this game will tempo up so much faster for Big Gabe.
Yeah, it really, really will. And of course, I mean, at this point in time, you're just moving around as HeRoMaRiNE. And again, I always like to say this on TVT, it's always about being on the map, because if you're on the map, you're the one that can seize opportunities. As long as you're safe enough against a drop at home, you're the one that can see, oh, you're out of position, I'm going to siege up, I'm going to get that location. And like this right now, you know he's up on the top side, it's like, okay, I'll try to drop into the main base, for example. These Marines will be there to defend it, but, you know, if they weren't, that's obviously a bit of a different scenario. Now you just pull back, you check the third again. Again, it's just nice for HeRoMaRiNE trying to get some bits and pieces done as the Raven comes in on the natural as he's distracting the main base.
You know what's unusual as well? I feel that souL kind of had to be the aggressor in this game, or at least being the one to get stuff done. I know he got the Ravens and such, but the fact that he took this passive approach with his army and then got up 2 sensor towers against Big Gabe not getting sensor towers, it feels like HeRoMaRiNE just is going to be on the map and he's going to be aggressive. He's going to take his 4th base earlier and be safer about it. So he's going to use his army as like sensor towers for the map. Yeah. And I mean, they are expensive. By the way, HeRoMaRiNE starting his +2 armor like significantly earlier as well. I know it did finish earlier, the first upgrade, but kind of forgetting about the +2. So that's the one thing I can say is a little off for HeRoMaRiNE here. Yeah,
it's kind of funny, right, when you forget that first upgrade and it's actually going to impact your upgrades later, even though you start the next round of upgrades a bit later again. So it's a little bit of a shame. It's like, again, we're kind of like really picking at straws to fault anything HeRoMaRiNE's doing, right? It's like, you forgot your armor upgrades, or you forgot your attack upgrade, I suppose. But as he pushes forwards here again, you don't really push into this position. There's sensor tower there, souL knows you're coming, so you can't do a lot, but you're also just keeping souL pinned back. And there's a nice drop from souL on the map. 3 Marines of Medivacs. What does HeRoMaRiNE have on the third base to defend? Because if it's not a lot, this could do some serious damage while souL is at home with all of his tanks, and HeRoMaRiNE doesn't have anything here.
Wow, that is quite a blunder. No sensor towers were available for him, and this third base, will it survive?
It's going to go down. It's just going to go down. The DPS was too high for the repair. He's actually going to keep pushing forwards. He's going to get the tank, the Vikings. HeRoMaRiNE's army is coming home. So HeRoMaRiNE's lost the third base, building 4th. Well, that's exactly what souL needed.
Oh my gosh, and the Medivacs go down as well. This game got tipped on its head. souL now feels pretty darn good. As long as he plays defensive, keeps his tanks back at home. Also, look at HeRoMaRiNE's upgrades. Still no +2 weapons. He has been thrown off. He's been shaken up. He's ahead in supply, so he can do like a counter push and deal damage, but it's very hard to attack on this map. There's only really 2 paths you can attack down.
It's kind of funny because you're right. It's like souL was the one that needed to cut corners almost to get back in the game, skipping sensor towers, but HeRoMaRiNE ahead in the game skipped them. And because of that, he's gone away with it. Now I'm going to see a Doom drop into the natural, but sensor towers will at least give souL a little bit of warning.
And he made a lot of turrets as well. This is going to deal a lot of damage. Those turrets all in the right location, but the units do unload. But souL is here with a lot of his Marines. The SCVs are fighting back as well. This is a great defense by souL so far. All the tanks dead, and the rest of HeRoMaRiNE's army will get cleaned up here.
Yeah, HeRoMaRiNE loses so many expensive units in this, and if he tries to escape, he's just going to escape out the right-hand side without the turret getting one more medevac kill. So for the last few units here, still going to try and harass, probably has a free flight into the main base as well, because again, HeRoMaRiNE has done nothing defensively this game. I really feel like this was just so much overconfidence from HeRoMaRiNE. In a game now where souL's about to have 2-2 over 1-2, HeRoMaRiNE's only just getting his third base back online as souL is built up into the 4th command center. And that's the big difference, right? HeRoMaRiNE's been missing the ability to build a 4th base at the same time as the 3rd, so souL is now in the driver's seat.
And very soon, souL's going to have the upgrade advantage as well, which is kind of crazy. Like, Big Gabe just started his weapons and armor at the same time, but I'm going to guess that he thinks that is +3 weapons starting. Like, he's very, very, very thrown off here in souL. Now he's the one with the supply lead. HeRoMaRiNE's done a very good job of getting back those SCVs and such that he lost at the third base. But man, what a bad spot for him to be in. Like, he's made this game way harder for himself than it should have been.
Yeah, and now you've got souL, got another couple medevacs coming down the bottom side. The rate of committing there is a little bit questionable, but at the same time, he's getting a couple of SCVs here and there. He's dropping these Marines on the bottom, and HeRoMaRiNE's army is not far away. Obviously, souL doesn't know that, so he's just going to try and dive in, but he still might dive in for a bit of damage. Where's he going to go? He expects there to be tanks here, and there is a couple because he scans, so he's going to drop on top of these, and HeRoMaRiNE just lost his tank count across the map, so now, losing the tanks again, HeRoMaRiNE has barely any siege tanks to work with. 4 in the army, that's going to be nothing compared to what souL's going to work with.
That actually worked out pretty darn well for souL. Like, resetting the tank count anytime you can. I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of signals souL for kind of to start moving out onto the map.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's taking his 4th base as well, yeah, and that looks like he's going to be at least posturing offensively at the 4th just to like secure it. But what is the tank count at for both these players now? Must be like fairly decent for souL. I mean, he's been producing on 2 factories for quite some time.
Yeah, it's like about 8-ish for souL. Maybe there's a couple more defensively around here and there. As HeRoMaRiNE's going to load up that big drop, but again, every drop we've seen him try so far has been shut down because souL has the map vision. He's even sending a Marine forward that's going to walk right underneath those medevacs, so he sees that coming, which forces HeRoMaRiNE to unload, and, well, now what? You know, another Marine up here from souL sees him try to go up to the high ground, and this is HeRoMaRiNE knowing he needs to try and do something because he's only on 3 bases against a player expanding to base number 4, so he's trying to get in there, he's trying to take advantage of souL spreading his army out, but not finding any opportunities. He's just going to have to go for one big push and hope that somehow he can break souL with, what, a +3 armor advantage? It's not going to be easy. Even though souL is in a good position here, given that he's got a 4th and stuff, HeRoMaRiNE has been playing quite well since losing the 3rd, even though doing that massive Doom drop was a bit of a fail as well. These kind of positions here, like, this is really good for him. This is 6 tanks against 3. The low ground tanks are also firing a little bit, but this is HeRoMaRiNE getting into a good position here. Like, these kind of moves can definitely get you back. Yeah, absolutely. It's denying that 4th base mining a little bit, which is what he doesn't have. So HeRoMaRiNE's very happy with this spot right now. Some of these mineral lines can't actually mine. souL realizes I've got to try and fight this high ground a bit more. And, well, HeRoMaRiNE's going to start diving on it. He has to be careful. It's a lot of tanks sieged up, and he can't quite commit to it just yet. But he also has the air control for a few Vikings here already. Yeah, we can't forget, though, that souL is producing 4 Vikings at a time. He had that economy advantage for just a little bit of time, but that gave him the ability to get his extra starports up and such. And as those Vikings do join the battle, he'll be in good shape. But HeRoMaRiNE, look, he just backs off at a good time. Oh, that is quite a substantial number of units left behind, and he's marching in on this 4th base. Yeah, he's coming in for it. Remember, the planetary will help a lot against those Marines, though. With the 1 or 2 tanks there, it's enough. But now he's in siege range of the planetary fortress, so this 4th base is dropping down. souL needs to repair it a little bit more than he is. I mean, the SCV count's not going to be high enough if he targets down a few of those extra. It's just surviving at the moment. How is Gabe doing this, by the way? I don't know. Like, on 3 bases? Yeah, I mean, this is so beautiful, by the way. He's not taking a 4th behind this because he knows that this is kind of his one shot. Or in fact, he is taking the 4th, or he's making the 4th base, but now he's taking out the 4th of souL. He's in great shape again. Yeah, I mean, souL suddenly reset. He does have a CC, I believe, moving to the right-hand side, so souL's going to try and change direction of the game. But this is almost resetting that game a little bit to now 4 base on 4 base, because HeRoMaRiNE has a CC of his own to move out somewhere, as this is starting to be an air battle. Vikings on either side, and the first couple Liberators from HeRoMaRiNE have just come online, and souL's going to stim in and go for this. He does have a +3 attack advantage as the Marines get the concave. It's a beautiful fight for souL as he cleans HeRoMaRiNE up. Wow. I mean, Big Gabe is still ahead in supply, surprisingly, after all that, and souL did establish a new 4th on the right side. As you said, it did get kind of reset, but this game is just showing to me that HeRoMaRiNE, even when put in a really terrible spot, he has taken every little advantage he can. Unit placement, tank placement, knowing what to do and when to do it. The fact that he put on so much pressure after losing his 3rd and such, but doing it in the right ways every time. This is crazy. Because souL has been down on supply every single time. It's just, how does that happen after the way the game played out? souL's 4th base on the right side is actually that main base orbital, right? So it's not even that great as this fight breaks out. I mean, the souL tanks were there a little bit faster, but does HeRoMaRiNE just have that much more that he just stims up into this and takes it down? That is a planetary fortress over there, so it is at least defendable. Wow. I mean, I'm so impressed by HeRoMaRinE. I don't really know what to say because it felt like everything was going wrong from that moment he lost the third, and yet he still seemed to be in control.
Yeah, and look at this, you know, souL's got ready for that air battle, that air dominance. That's never going to happen. He forgot about the ground army. And now there's so many tanks shelling on that PF. The Marines, they can't do anything either. What are these Vikings going to do? Shoot at medevacs? I mean, as long as he keeps them behind the Marines, you're losing your 4th base again, mate.
Yeah, 4th base goes down, these extra few Vikings being chased, and even that's just expensive to lose because if you do get the Liberators up, which is what he's trying to do, they can maybe push back a position, but not if they're not supported, because then HeRoMaRinE, he did add on starports already, so he has that production available if he needs to build Vikings. Here goes souL jumping on this, but he knows he doesn't have enough, and HeRoMaRinE takes a game 2 in pretty miraculous fashion. That's kind of, wow, I'm impressed.
I'm super impressed. I'm even more impressed by the fact that he put himself in a bad position initially, and that was also because souL was playing well. But the fact that he bounced back from that as well, and as smoothly as he did, it just shows that he's a very much all-round player. Even in crisis situations, he knows how to get